premise of the book is you're saying that this song, where you would not think that these two parties would get together to do this at the time that they did it, why did it, how did it change radio?
Well, and you know, some very smarty pants person at the New York Times referenced the book and the title and described it as hyperbole a little bit, but it actually is almost science how this changed everything. And I could tell you in 30 seconds, before Walk This Way, the Run DMC version, there was no Yo MTV Raps, In Living Color, Arsenio, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I found in the archives at Cornell an attempt in 1985 by Run DMC's publicist to get them on the Letterman show. And Letterman's people wrote back and said, sorry, it doesn't fit the format. Just a couple years later, you see Paul Schaefer premiering his solo record with Dion, Carole King, and Will Smith on the microphone. So I mean, that's my elevator pitch, but I've got the reporting to back it up. It is science, you know?
How did it come together? These two bands get together and record this?
Well, you've got Run DMC, which was the most successful rap group at the time, but still not like Starship.
They weren't mainstream.
No. Did you like Star? Yeah. So you got Run DMC, and they're being produced by Rick Rubin, who was not the Rick Rubin we know of now. He was not a very famous man. He did have a slightly bad beard, and he ate a lot of Chinese food, but he was not Rick Rubin yet. And then you've got Aerosmith on the other side, and right now they just opened their Las Vegas run, the 50th anniversary, but what we forget, but I don't forget because I'm from Boston and I was 15 then, is they were as low as you could get. They had just gotten back together again, but they were still on drugs. They'd put out this record, Done with Mirrors, which I loved, but it was a bomb. And the record company basically said, hey, come on in here, do this thing. Here's $8,000. So $8,000 is what got them to New York in March of 1986.
Which band needed it most at the time, though?
Well, I'd argue Aerosmith, only because in the mythology of this whole thing, Aerosmith has been seen as like the White Knights, really, riding in and saving this young rap group, when in fact, Run DMC was on the ascension. They had already had hits. And Aerosmith was really in terrible, terrible shape. And when you look at what happened afterward, Aerosmith then starts doing things like Dude Looks Like a Lady and Permanent Vacation and all those records that made them more popular than before. But at that point, they were in trouble.
Was there mutual respect when they collaborated?
No, there was not. That is another piece of the myth. And what I found from my reporting, and I talked to 100 people for this thing. Back in the day, people liked to pretend everybody loved each other. You know what I mean? Like you and I, we have a terrible rivalry and hatred, but we're being friendly here. And that's kind of what happened there. The difference is I found about 20 minutes of archival footage in the Viacom vaults, which nobody had seen, or some editor had seen it and cut it down to 90 seconds in '86. And you can see Run DMC and Aerosmith talking to each other, and they have no idea really what they each do. I mean, Run DMC didn't even know the song was called Walk This Way. They just knew the beat. To them, it was #4 on Toys in the Attic.
So they would sample this, the beginning part of Aerosmith's Walk This Way.
Yeah.
They didn't get to the lyrics.
No, they hated the lyrics. I mean,
they didn't understand the lyrics.
No, and who does? I still don't. But they're very rap-like. But what they knew is boom, ch, boom, 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 ch. They knew that. And if you look on YouTube, which I do endlessly, you can find Grandmaster Flash, the pioneering DJ, using that sample in 1978. But if you're a DJ back then, if you got to the guitar, and God forbid, if you got to the vocal, you were a terrible DJ who would never be seen again.
But then what happens to Run DMC after this song hits?
Well, Run DMC, you know, is it the song or is it just their own sort of problems? But basically, this is the most successful thing they'll ever do. They had sold millions of records in the past, but they sold like tens of millions. You know, it's huge. But what ends up happening is, you know, one, they start feuding with their record company and they sue them, and that puts them on the sidelines for 2 years. And 2 years in hip-hop in 1986 is an eternity. So by the time they come back with Tougher Than Leather in 1988, they're already on the way down. I still think it's a good record, but it doesn't sell as well. And then eventually they just kind of fizzle out. Aerosmith, on the other hand, they clean up. I mean, I have this great nitty-gritty, I'm sorry, I love reporting, this great nitty-gritty thing where they actually clean up because of Walk This Way, because the management of Aerosmith had to get Tyler into a drug rehab facility, and they had to do an intervention before the morning got on too long. And they told him that the BBC wanted to talk to him about Walk This Way, and because of the time change, he needed to be at the offices super early. And so he shows up and he's like, who are all you people? And that like actually cleans them up to come back.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.